Hi guys, it's Miljorie, or you guys can call me Enjoy. This is a continuation of my Artist Way series on how I try to heal and make space for both my grief and my art. Within this 12-week course, I try to break down as best as I could my experience on how I approached each week by integrating the end of the week check-in as well as 3 additional categories. So let's go ahead and start with week 1. So week 1 is all about recovering a sense of safety, or in other words, overcoming limiting beliefs and self-doubt. The chapter starts with shadow artists, those that are drawn to other artists but are blocked artists themselves and caught between the dream of action and the feature of failure. So someone who doesn't really recognize their identity of a creative or as an artist that prevent them from developing or pursuing their artistic talents. Herman explains how we halt our creative expressions by repressing our true desires and our true passions because of both internal and external factors. Internal, such as self-worth, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and external factors like culture, people, society, and your environment. All these factors have changed and altered the way that we feel about exploring and expressing ourselves creatively by staying in the shadow. But in order to get the inner artist out of the shadow is to really acknowledge and recognize those unconscious ways and blocks in which we've kind of been conditioned throughout our entire lives. Undoubtedly, my biggest block, like many others, is myself. But I'm taking steps towards change and letting both my grief and my art soar freely. And the first step is living with grace in being a beginner and protecting the artist child within. We tend to self-sabotage ourselves by going way too far, setting really high expectations, thinking that we could be very good too soon. Reality that starting anything new is that you have to be a beginner. In order to be an artist, you have to be a bad artist. You have a chance to be an artist and perhaps over time a really good artist. Most of the time when we are blocked in an area of our life, it is because we feel safer that way. We may not be happy, but at least we know that we are unhappy. Much fear of our own creativity is the fear of the unknown. But sometimes it's not as easy to embrace that change because we as humans are so used to being comfortable, even if that change is really good for us. But creativity requires stepping into the unknown of why these core negative beliefs exist in the first place and why they're holding us back. Usually they're ingrained in our childhood. We develop them out of interactions with our families, our friends, our society, and they become our creative blocks that we don't even realize. But creative blocks are just beliefs, and beliefs are just thoughts, and beliefs and thoughts can be changed. By identifying those negative beliefs, we can replace them with affirmations. You're not only changing the thought, but you're also changing the belief. We can challenge these negatives with affirmations and rewrite the whole story. We can use these positive affirmations to really retrain our brains. Our minds will usually object at first, but we are the thinker of the thoughts, not the thoughts. Nurturing is key to recover. We need solitude, self-nurturing, and self-intimacy. So on to the morning pages. No filter, just a flow of thoughts and words. At first, I found myself wondering what I should write about, what aspects of my life needed attention, and what deserved to be confronted. But then I viewed the morning pages as a space to really just for my mind to catch up. It took me a few days of daily journaling and waking up 30 minutes earlier than usual to tap into this new mindset of leaving the old and unhelpful beliefs behind. They did show up quite often in my morning pages, but I eventually realized that the negative beliefs that were holding me back were never really mine. I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my censor, I'm not my anxiety. I just have to be mindful of watching them pass. They were just a part of my conditioning that I picked up over the years. I found ways to rewrite them into statements that strengthened my core confidence, And every day I find myself growing more attuned to my own thoughts, gaining a deeper sense of self-awareness. My favorite entry that I wrote was, I'm supposed to make art, I'm supposed to make bad art, I'm supposed to make art that I love. This is a place where my conscious, my wounded self who knows grief, as well as my unconscious, my inner artist child within, and they could both finally meet and talk with one another. And they played in my artist date. I played it safe and went to the park that I only visited once. I read the book The Mountain Is You, a book that my guardian angel really loved. I've only read a few chapters last year, but I never really found myself to finishing it. Maybe because I was scared what the mountain was. But one of my favorite quotes I jotted down was, the truth is that you can have a vision of what you want, know that it is undoubtedly right for you, and simply not feel like taking the action required to pursue that path. I realized that I've been doing my own kind of artist dates all along throughout the beginning of my grief journey. I always went to this specific park with my guardian angel, and we'd sit on the same bench. And like I said in my first video, this was the first moment of synchronicity that I noticed. I've been prioritizing my healing from the very beginning. I was finally listening to the universe, and the universe was on my side the whole time. Speaking of time, there was a lot of time traveling in the tasks of week 1. The one I loved most and gravitated to was write out one happy piece of encouragement. You are where you need to be in your own timeline. Thank you to myself for healing on your own way, healing at your own pace, healing within your own timeline, healing yourself, with others, alone, and all the above. I'm thankful and proud of myself for how far I've come. Without resilience, without hope, without now, I'd be in a different headspace, in a different mindset. I'm not falling behind. I'm not disappointing myself. What matters is my own self-reflection, self-discovery. It's okay if I'm taking time to heal, because soon I will flourish, I will soar. I will be the person I'm meant to be. I also did my 5 imaginary lives. I'd love to be an artist, a fashion designer, a content creator, an art therapist, or an art teacher. The tasks that I saw that were breakthroughs was the blurts and affirmations. I'm very familiar with writing affirmations, but I was not familiar with writing affirmations from blurts. One of my blurts was, "You're not worthy," but my affirmation from that blurt says, "I am enough. I know my worth. I am worthy. I love myself." The 3 tasks that I avoided was old enemies, horror story, and writing a letter to the editor. I honestly didn't do them because I was afraid to do them, but I actually revisited those tasks during my break for rest weeks, and I'm so glad I did them because they were very empowering. I gave myself the opportunity to allow things in general, such as grief and even old enemies, to hurt me in order to truly move forward. I found a recovering of safety by finding myself. At the end of week 1, I found myself more raw and more vulnerable to myself than ever before. There's something about showing up, even when you don't feel ready, just feels right. The doubts are still there, the fears are still there, my inner little censor voice is still there, but I'm acknowledging these thoughts and just letting them go and watching them pass, rather than internalizing them in my heart by carving more space for my art and carving more space for my grief. Because when you go through grief, you're not the same person as you were before. That goes with anything life-changing, because grief comes in many forms. Whether you're grieving a loved one or grieving a past life that you had. Grief changed me, but I didn't want it to consume me. I wanted it to strengthen me. And what better way than carrying my grief by establishing a sense of safety. In order to explore both avenues, I needed to bridge both the core aspects of my life where they can communicate and not fight or overshadow one another, because they're now intertwined with who I am today. And if I want to allow to move forward, I really have to allow my true self to push through. I'm not going to disappoint anyone by expressing my own experiences. Expressing my truth and being my most authentic and raw self starts with this sense of safety. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you are also doing the artist way, have done it before, or redoing it for the 10th time. I would love to know. And remember, make life enjoyable. Bye.